So let's just note that down. Okay, so contrast. So many people in such great hurry that the village has never seen before. It was only out of the corner of his eye before being pushed on the great looming sides of steamships, berthed at the dock, cranes lifting and lowering huge bales, men bare-bodied, sweating, okay, grunting, whatever. Okay, so women like fishermen, all good. So everyone's basically working, okay? So the whole idea is it's cacophony, right? Or cacophony, and it's just crazy, right? It's crazy, crazy, crazy. And everyone's just working like ridiculous hours. And everyone's just working really, really, in like a frenzy, yeah? And now they were out of the gates and onto the streets in the midst of a terrifying traffic. In all his life, Hari had never seen so much traffic. So here we kind of have a little bit of conflict as well. We have city versus countryside, okay? So one thing that you guys should just be aware of is that whenever you see these themes pop up, they're rather common. And once you figure it out, then you should be able to predict the kind of reaction. So think about it. Someone's from the countryside, someone's from like rural fishing village. They come to the big city. There's a bit of like shock, right? There's a bit of shock. They're not sure what's going on, and they're kind of shocked just by all of this commotion. He clutched the arm of the man next to him in alarm, relieved to find that it was Farmer Mahay from Thul. Okay, so hurry, brother. We have to go to Kalagoda. The black horse. Mahay panted. Together they dodged the traffic. A huge red double-decker bus that screeched to a halt just before their nose. So again, it's chaotic, right? You could almost describe this as quite reckless, at least from their point of view. The driver leant out of the window and bellowed at them. They stood transfixed, shaking. Where have you come from, fool? The policeman roared at Hari. Never seen traffic lights, don't you know how to cross a street? Come straight from the pumpkin fields, have you? The policeman laughed. So we know that he's kind of mocking them a little bit. He knows that they're strangers, which is why they might be picked on, right? We are farmers and fishermen from Alibar. We have come to speak to the chief minister. You do that, you do that. He is waiting for you with tea and a garland and a sweet for each of you. He bursts out laughing again. So we know that this is not serious, okay? You should be able to figure out, so when we're dealing with dialogue, right? You need to be able to figure out when someone's joking with you or when someone's using more of a sardonic, sarcastic tone. And here, in terms of the dialogue, we know the tone that is being carried is rather sarcastic. How do we know that? Because immediately it says, you do that, okay? So he could have said just, you do that, but when he says, you do that, we know that he's mocking them, right? He's making fun of them. You do that. He is waiting for you with tea and a garland and sweet for each of you. So he's very sarcastically saying that these people will be welcomed, which means that they're not going to be very welcome, okay? So they are not welcome in this city, okay? That's basically what's going on. So he burst out laughing again, winking at the bus driver as he did so, and then blew his whistle shrilly to make them move. Hari and his companion moved on, very hurt and offended. Again, we can see that the countryside people, or the people from the small fishing village, obviously not used to this. They're more of a gentle group of people. They're more gentle. They're more easygoing. They're not used to the callousness of this policeman. Because really the policeman is brutal. He's basically roasting them, okay? He's brutal. He's basically roasting them. And we see that he's really, really callous, okay? So just things to be aware of. So now that we've gone through this, and I know we've spent maybe like 5-10 minutes on just going through, this passage, in your own work, you should, when you're doing the test, you really only have about 1 minute to 2 minutes to get through it quickly. Again, I'm only giving you guys suggestions on if you want to get full marks, right? This is how to get 50 out of 50 in the actual test. So you really only have about 1 minute to 2 minutes to read through the passage quickly and to do it in your brain. Now, I'm going to give you guys some strategies on how to actually, read through it quickly. One of the key points of speed reading is noting down the keywords and using your peripheral vision. So what I'm going to do at the end of today's video is I'm going to link you guys to a video by Tim Ferriss, in which he kind of explains how to speed read, how to read very, very quickly. And it's a great resource to reading quickly. The one caveat is that when you increase your reading speed, your comprehension kind of goes down. So if you're starting off and your comprehension right now is already really, really bad and you can't understand anything that you're reading, then probably don't jump into speed reading. But if you're finding that you understand everything well already, you've got like 80–90% comprehension, and you just want to increase that speed, then I think the number one key is peripheral vision. You need to make sure that you use your peripheral vision. You need to make sure that you're not voicing your words, right? So if you find yourself like whispering the words to yourself, that's a big, big no-no, right? So don't do that. And number three is just noting down all the keywords, right? So every few lines, note down the keywords. Make sure that you're processing multiple words at the same time rather than just reading each word one by one. If you can do that, then you can reduce your reading speed to about 1 minute, 2 minutes. But anyway, you guys should all watch that video by Tim Ferriss because he's got a lot of really, really good strategies on speed reading. So if you just type in speed reading Tim Ferriss, you'll be able to find all of his information. Now, when we go through the questions, this is where it gets really difficult. The number one thing in Cambridge is we have something called a decoy, okay? You gotta be aware of decoys. I've told all my kids at Scully about what decoys are. Decoys are basically tricks or certain keywords that Cambridge uses to lure or entice you into a trap, okay? So oftentimes I want you guys to comment down below if you've seen an option that seems really, really good. You choose it and then you find out that you got tricked by a certain keyword. That's known as a decoy. And so there are 5 key decoys. We're going to go through them very quickly. Number one is planning an exact keyword from the passage. So always be aware whenever you see an exact keyword from the passage in the answer options, it's generally wrong. Generally wrong. Not always wrong, but generally wrong. Why? Because they're trying to trap you, okay? Because most of you are used to seeing keywords. You remember certain keywords, you have a selective memory, you see certain keywords and you're like, yep, that must be the answer when you see them in the answer options and then you get tricked. Planning an exact word with a similar idea, manipulating modality, right? So this is when they over-extrapolate and they turn something that's mildly positive into something very, very positive. Now, don't worry if that's all very fast because we're gonna go through the questions right now and we'll break it down. From the first paragraph, how does Bombay appear to Hari? Okay, so keywords that we need to be aware of is appear to Hari, okay, not to anybody else. And we know that Hari is the narrator, okay? Now, what did we say? We said kind of shimmering beauty, okay? We said it was a shimmering beauty, peacock blue, emerald green, white castle. Again, we have a very regal feeling here. Very, very regal, very imperial, wealthy, riches, you know what I mean? Even when you think about peacocks and emeralds, it's a very opulent feeling, okay? And what I mean by opulent is just rich, luxurious, okay? Blinding against hot blue sky, so blinding keyword there to be aware of. Let's look. Vibrant with green and blue lights. Now, we definitely see the word green, okay? We also see the word blue. Now, the keyword is Bombay both green and blue? Well, it says turning the dull sea and lighting up the city of Bombay on the far shore. So this is where most of you guys would have got tricked by the decoy. So the issue that we have is green and blue refers to the dull sea, okay? Green and blue refers to the dull sea, not Bombay. Do you guys understand what I mean? So that's where a lot of you guys would have got it tricked already. You saw, oh, green and blue, yep, that should be the answer, decoy. Does that make sense? Because it's linked to the dull sea, not Bombay. Bombay is a city. It's a landmass. It's not the sea. So here it says, and lighting up the city of Bombay on the far shore like a white castle made of sand, blinding against a hot blue sky. That's it, right? So white castle, hot blue sky. So, and it's blinding. So gleaming and dazzling in the sun. So we have the word blinding. So that's pretty good. And the reason why it's blinding is because it's shimmering, right? It's blinding, it's dazzling, it's very, very difficult to see, right? Hot blue sky and white castle. So B doesn't seem like a bad option. So we can put a question mark around that. Surreal and unreachable by boat, that's wrong because it is reachable by boat. Distant and gray under a hot sky, that's wrong, okay? It's not gray at all. There's no information about being gray. At the very beginning, there's like the dull sea, but that's definitely not it, Okay, so the only one that is correct here would be B. So you see how even B doesn't use any words or any direct words from the passage. This is the key. Okay, so a lot of these answers are implied. Can everybody write that down? Implied answers. And that's the very first rule of Cambridge. And if you remember that, then that'll help save you a lot of marks. So planning, the 5 key decoys, like I said, planning an exact word from the passage. Whenever you see an exact word from the passage, generally steer clear. Okay, because we know that they're doing that for a reason. Because 90% of kids, once they read option A, they'd be like, yep, the answer's A. Okay? Most kids aren't able to find synonyms for the word blinding or synonyms for the word white. Okay? But if you are able to synonymize, right, or find a synonym, then you'd be able to figure out that the answer is B. Okay? Cool, let's keep going. Farmers and fishermen sing and shout on the boats. Why? Well, we already know from way back that this is the very first journey, or one of the very rare opportunities that they get to travel. Okay, usually they're always stuck in the fishing town and they really don't get many opportunities to travel. They are nervous about the confrontation? No, that's definitely not it. They're not nervous about the confrontation at all. They need to practice for the procession. That's definitely not it. That's why they should stop singing and shouting, to reserve their energy for the procession, but it's definitely not to practice. They need to show why they are there. No, not really. Again, they're not showing why they are there, because if they were showing why they were there, they would have angry shouts. Right now, it's not really angry shouts. Why they're there is for the protests, right? But right now, they're shouting and singing out of joy. So it's very, very different. So it can't be C. Again, most kids who chose it because they didn't understand the passage, and again, because of a decoy. Because right here, a lot of you guys might have misinterpreted this thing here, where it said, sit down, keep all your shouting, keep your breath for all the shouting you were going to do in Bombay. When we get there, we'll shout, so every man in the city hears us, never you fear. Okay, now that is advice. That is not why they're shouting on the boat. Okay, in fact, that's the reason for why they should stop shouting on the boat. D is the answer. Why? Because they are enjoying being away from work. Okay, they're getting away. It's a bit of a holiday. Keyword holiday. It seemed almost like a holiday. So always try to match up your answer to a keyword from the passage. So in this case, if you found the word holiday, it seemed almost like holiday. Usually a rare outing, they usually never gave up a day's work to leave the village. Pretty easy.